Je suis à l'American Academy avec Jordan Graff d'Arizona, qui est l'un des premiers à avoir utilisé le PDS, qui maintenant s'appelle PDP. Jordan, tell me, which patients do you choose to implant? First of all,
a good patient for the port delivery system, thank you, is a patient who's responding well to anti-VEGF injections, potentially fatiguing of the injections, maybe unable to extend and reduce the burden, that doesn't have damage to the conjunctiva, has healthy conjunctiva, no autoimmune disease. We don't want thin or damaged or scarred or post-surgical conjunctiva, and willing and healthy enough to undergo a minor surgical procedure.
okay. So you learn to put it, to install it, I don't know how to say it. You learn?
The surgical procedure.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. I think it's reassuring for a retinal surgeon to know that this is well within your skill set. If you are repairing tractional detachments and macular holes and diabetic damage, and this is not more complex, but it's nuanced and it's different. And I think it deserves just a little extra respect. And it's actually kind of fun to learn a new technique, to learn something new.
Okay. Is the learning curve long, or did you learn quickly?
No, it's thankfully what we're able to do, I would say the learning curve is getting shorter and shorter because we're learning from collective knowledge. We're looking at 8 and 9 years of clinical trials now in the US, and velodrome underway and getting underway in many parts around the world. So we have a collective learning, which allows us to take the complication rates and surgical nuances and techniques and build upon those so that as we're going forward, we're better and better.
And you have some kind of, I would say, net between you
Yes.
to address the patient, to learn to the other ophthalmologist? How does it work?
Yes, there's a network, a teaching network,
Exactly.
a surgical excellence program that is available and internationally. So there are doctors that can access their what we call SDS or SDX surgical liaisons, that their whole career is dedicated to supporting the SDX platform. So they are studying videos, they have access to video libraries, access to other experts to help those who are learning the technique for the first time.
Okay, so because we're starting in France, so we will have to
Yes.
learn from you. Which are the benefits for the patients?
I think that there are two benefits,
Yeah.
and sometimes we jump to benefit number 2, which is reducing the burden on the healthcare system, on the patient, on the family, on your clinics. But I really think benefit number 1 is the biggest, and that is sustained delivery, sustained pharmacokinetics. We know that every injection, even the newer medications, eventually have a trough.
Yeah.
So the medicine wears off. And that trough, we discover why, because the disease reactivates, so we have to inject. There's some risk that that trough may mean we're under-treating patients. And we've all seen some patients where something really bad can happen when that trough takes place.
Nice.
So I think benefit 1 is sustained, continuous delivery, continuous pharmacokinetics. And benefit 2 is reduced burden.
Okay. And now they changed the device. So the new one, you had it for how long?
So we had the device FDA approved, and we were implanting it commercially in the U.S. Until about a year and a half ago now, maybe a little bit longer, when there was a voluntary suspension. It was discovered that a few % of the implants of one of the batches of the device were having the little septum dislodge.
Okay.
Now the overmold remained intact. It wasn't a risk to patient, wasn't an increased risk of infection, but it wasn't meeting internal standards. And so Roche voluntarily suspended and spent a year re-engineering.
Okay.
The 2 things they did. They did the overmold, and the septum bond was doubled in its strength, so it had changed the anatomy a little bit of the shape there and made the bond strength stronger. And then also changed the refill exchange needle, so it has a smooth glide with less resistance, so it's less than half the Newton force to do the refill. That combination ameliorated that problem.
I tested it to be, 90 degrees. It's not that easy. when you inject, when you re-inject.
Yeah.
Yeah. And now that we have a platform, do you think that we can kind of hub, we can inject different things in that?
Yes. In fact, I'm a clinical investigator, a principal investigator in the Burgundy clinical trial,
The
where
new
we're
one.
using zifabansamib, which is a dutafab molecule. So you're essentially taking a biphasic molecule with
Yeah.
Ang2, it's faricimab essentially,
A
shortened.
tiny one, yeah.
A tiny one, so it can go through the port. And that's just the beginning. We see this as a platform. I mean, it doesn't take much imagination to go, what about this drug? What about that drug? Could we
Yes.
put this drug in there?
Kind of hub.
Exactly, and use it as a platform.
Nice. Okay, thank you.
Yes.